Does your business insurance cover theft? And you may have missing property, missing inventory, missing tools. You want to know if you're covered, if you're going to be made whole by your policy. Well, in some ways it depends, and this is why I have to pay very close attention. A general liability policy, which is what most people have, may or may not cover certain types of missing gear. It could be tools, it could be inventory, it could be raw materials. In many cases, a general liability policy may not cover the loss of those. It may cover damage, it may cover liability, that's why it's called a general liability, but it may or may not cover theft. It depends upon how the theft happened. Was it a break-in? Was it embezzlement? Was it a cyber theft? Where was the inventory stored? In fact, some builders' policies have a very specific distance. If the materials were stored within 100 feet, let's say, of the job site, they may be covered. If it's farther away, they may not be covered. So you have to really look at your policy. The most important thing is start with the default judgment that it's not going to be covered under a GL policy, and then read through and see what is covered. In most cases, loss of inventory, materials, tools is an endorsement on a policy. It's not part of the policy, it's an add-on. And here's why. A general liability policy typically is what's called a third-party coverage. It covers other people's losses. If you do something wrong and somebody else is affected by it negatively, it takes care of them. It doesn't take care of you. So what you may want to look for is what's called an inland marine policy. Now, you might think, marine, I don't have anything to do with boats. That's true. But inland marine is the term used to cover more of your own losses. Tools, equipment, inventory, that kind of thing. And it's called marine just because historically that's where the coverage came from. It came from transporting cargo and things inland, where it's not something which is a fixed location. That's the origin of it, but now it does cover those things. So take a look at to see if you have this kind of coverage, to see if you have something that protects the losses that you're worried about. Look, if you would be devastated by the loss of certain specific tools or equipment or diagnostic gear, you want to make sure it's covered. And a general liability policy generally won't cover that, or won't cover it as much as you would need to. So look at inland marine, look at specific liability. You also want to look at how much is the coverage cost. Is it book value or replacement value, right? Book value means what's it worth right now as a used item. Replacement value means how much you'll have to pay to get another one. And you may want to go with one or the other. Obviously, replacement value is better, but it also costs more. So you have to look at that trade-off. Either way, for most companies, their equipment, their gear, their inventory is probably the most valuable thing in their company, and the loss of which would cause an immediate revenue problem. If you have inventory, you need raw materials to make your product. If it disappears from your warehouse, you can't make product, so your revenue stops. Your revenue timeline stops until you get more. You may lose customers. So you also want to look to see, do you have business interruption insurance to cover those losses in addition to replacing the inventory? It's a complicated measure. A lot of times people think general liability is a be-all, end-all, but you really have to look and see what's in there and talk with a broker. You can click the link below if you want to talk more about making sure the coverage you want matches what you actually have.